Eyes and find time has flown by. It seems almost yesterday when we founded this company and you joined us as our legal compliance
Yeah,
officer,
yeah, as
manager.
a manager.
Tell me more about that.
Well, several people had talked to me saying, you really should think about applying to Convo. And to be honest, I had always had an eye on Convo for a long time. I was a user of Convo from day one through law school. And so the thought that I could work there as well, like, so I met with the team and had great conversations. And I left that conversation thinking, I want to work there. Immediately. It was decided then and there. And so I was always excited about it. And this journey has been amazing from, that year when we were US and then growing into Canada. And now all of this time, we've just continued to grow into the 5 countries we're in now. And for me, it's not just about that growth, but the actual connections that we've been able to make around the globe. It's just my favorite part of the whole thing has been working with the global team and those relationships.
I recall having conversations with Wayne in the early years. When I came in to Convo, it was as an investor and then chief strategy officer. And then it happened that we needed a new CEO, and it was decided that I would step in on an interim basis. Wayne, myself, and at the time, our small core team agreed that we needed to find a new CEO, and so it was agreed that I would step into that role on an interim basis. And I knew at the time Convo had immediate needs. It needed attention to certain details, such as call center coordination and many other things. And so I dove right in and got to work. And I would talk with Wayne about, what if we were to find a deaf person? How amazing would it be if that person were a woman to lead us? It would be amazing being deaf because no one was at that level at the time. So we were just tossing around the idea. After about a year later, it was decided that I was the most experienced person at the time, but I wished I'd had a successor to have someone alongside me who could eventually take my place because I knew I couldn't do this forever. And besides, Convo isn't just about Wayne or myself, it's about impact, vision, a movement. And so your name came up. And that was really exciting because I'd worked with you for 10 years. And in that time, it was really nice having someone who was in the company, who had gone through a journey to get to the point where we are today. And it really is one of my proudest and most amazing achievements. So, how did you feel when you were asked to become CEO?
I mean, really, I was honored. It was heartfelt. And it took me a moment to really think about it, like how touching it was. And then I realized what an opportunity it was for myself. I feel very fortunate, first of all, to be here at Convo, and then to have an opportunity to be able to shift my area of focus. I've enjoyed being in the legal department. I love being a lawyer, but I've started to really want to roll up my sleeves and get involved in more strategic thinking and how we can take Convo to the next level and keep Convo in a place that runs with heart and keeps the community at its center. And I'm really looking forward to getting involved with our teams and working with them.
Likewise.
I'd like to turn that question around on you. How does that feel for you?
Ah, well, first of all, I think for a long time we've been waiting to find the right person to take this on. The CEO's role carries a tremendous amount of weight, and I've had to carry that weight for a very long time as we've navigated this tough landscape without external investment. It was just myself and a few of us who were bootstrapping the company, making things work as we grew to this point. We've experienced numerous challenges, and it's been hard finding someone who understood all the pieces. And one nice benefit of it being you is, as our legal counsel, you've been exposed to everything working alongside me. And sometimes you overlook. We didn't realize that you had been trained to take on the role,
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
but you were right there. And so that's one nice thing about this. For me, it means that I can now focus on the well being of the company, making sure that you are supported. I can be where, if you have a need, that I can ensure that you have the financing, the feedback, the mentorship, and a host of other things that we can do for you to ensure the company to grow into other spaces as opportunities arise, to be able to support that as Convo progresses into the future. Eventually, you yourself will have a successor, someone that you'll need to train for the longevity of this company through multiple generations for the benefit of our community.
100%.
Right,
I
100%.
couldn't have said it better myself.
So I'm curious to ask you a question more on a personal level. Kind of want to know what gets you up in the morning to do this type of work.
I think the same thing that's always motivated me, ever since I was a child. I always wanted to be able to connect. I wanted access to information. I was born deaf, and at the time, there wasn't closed captioning on television, and I complained about that. And when we got captioning, not all TV shows were captioned. And I mean, you remember that experience. I was frustrated, and I didn't just accept that frustration. I sent a letter of protest to different TV shows saying I wanted caption, and one actually did caption their show. And so that's something I've always embodied, wanting that access, wanting those connections, and wanting that for the entire community. It's just something that I've always been driven by, this sense of injustice. Something doesn't feel fair. I feel like, I just need to use my time to contribute to changing that. And I never actually thought that it's something I would be able to do in the world of business. I mean, I went into law thinking I would be a legal advocate, advocating for our rights, advocating for justice in different spaces. I never thought about what I could do in the business world, and Convo showed me that it was possible. And so coming here, I want to continue to bring forth that spirit of advocacy and, provide that to our consumers, and, work with those people who are interested in and wanting those connections, because connections are the foundation of human experience. If we aren't connected, it's not a natural feeling for people. We don't thrive. We're not able to maximize ourselves. Connections can change lives for the better. And that's what we're about. We want to make it possible for deaf people, myself, you, all of us, to be able to connect at the moment of intent and not have to wait, not have to schedule an interpreter, not feel like I'm always behind, right? Not say, oh, all right, if I'll see you tomorrow at 3 if I need an interpreter, or maybe I need 2 weeks to
Right
schedule
away.
it. But, connect at the moment of intent. That's something we strongly believe in. That's something we want to deliver on. That, in a way, gives our community the ability to control that. That centers the deaf person. And I think that's, what we want to do, challenge the status quo. The system is designed by people who don't need the system, who don't use or rely on access to interpreters or captioning or whatever is designed. They designed it to be
Agreed.
incongruous. It doesn't fit. And so for me, this is something that feels like a perfect fit, bringing my advocacy skills to Convo. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. I thank you for what you've done thus far, for our employees, our customers. It's taken all of us
Absolutely.
together to get aligned and make those connections and to keep us going.
Right. Everyone's involved in this for the long haul. I agree. Another personal question I want to ask. You said something about your involvement in the captioning front. You said you sent a letter. What was that? You sent a letter. Can you tell me more? I want to understand about that.
Sure, sure. So, if you remember a TV show that used to be on, Mr. Rogers,
Of course.
well, when I was little, I would watch Mr. Rogers, but it wasn't captioned, right? And so I could vaguely understand what was going on in the shows, but there was a part of the show that was just done with puppets, right? And so the mouths didn't even move. You didn't really understand. If you tried to lip read, there were no lips to read. And so I would just imagine what they were talking about. And so I remember my parents eventually bought a captioning machine, and I was so excited. It was that
Right.
really
Set top
big
box
box
with
with the
dials.
dials. But my favorite show still wasn't captioned, and I was so disappointed. Fortunately, my parents were the type of people who, helped me brainstorm what we could do. And they said, "Oh, maybe we can send a letter." And so I was okay. I had a letter in my own handwriting that I wrote out and asked them to caption their show because I'm deaf and I couldn't access it. And they sent a letter back saying, "No, little kids can't read." And I wrote them back saying, "You're wrong.
My
And if anything,
God.
captions will help us read. We'll learn better. So that's just another reason to have captioning on your show." And so they did, in fact, go ahead and start captioning Mr. Rogers. And that was my first true lesson in why you should advocate for yourself and not just
Right.
accept the status quo and just continue to struggle. That one person can make a change.
How did you doing that impact you on a personal level?
It showed me that you can make a difference. One person can make a difference. Thinking about all of the children out there who, after that, were able to watch Mr. Rogers with captioning because I wrote a letter. It was a little mind blowing. Like, what else can we do if we just assume that we can't make a difference, right? If we just put ourselves out there to continue to make ripples that turn into waves.
Sometimes we don't think about that. I mean, imagine you were a little girl. How old were you then?
Oh, I was probably 5 or
Five or
6.
six. Wow,
Now,
just a little girl.
mind you, in fairness, that back and forth probably took around a year, maybe 2, but it eventually worked.
Yes, as a little girl at the age of 5, you changed the lives of
Maybe.
millions, thousands certainly. Uh, we now have captioning. We have people who even come from other countries who are benefiting from it, and you've impacted their lives. We often don't realize that with the work that we do, how every small step matters. Convo's philosophy is that conversations transform lives. What does that mean to you?
That's a great question. I think starting with what conversations mean. What is a conversation? It's the ability for two people to come together, be able to connect, start a dialogue, start to understand each other, start to see each other, understand what each other is thinking, be able to empathize, to develop empathy for another, to develop an exchange of ideas and knowledge and connections that can reverberate and can end up really changing the course of somebody's life, whether it's yours or somebody else's, through an open exchange of ideas, through a moment of connection and empathy. We're not isolated in this world. We're not alone and separate. The deaf experience can often feel that way because we don't necessarily have those connections and those conversations. We miss out on those opportunities, whether it's a 2-minute conversation or whether it's a 1 hour long conversation. Both can be just as impactful on your life because it's a moment to connect. And we're committed to making it possible to deliver those conversations. So if you want to have a connection, you want to talk to someone, you can. I'm really looking forward to and I'm excited for being able to see those conversations happen through partnerships, through our employees, specifically through our interpreters, with our clients and our consumers, and figuring out as the world continues to evolve, as technology continues to evolve, as the opportunities change, what does that mean for Convo? And how can we better partner with people to change in a way that still continues to center the deaf person to get a top-notch experience for those consumers, and make sure that our interpreters are also able to deliver what they do best. Convo has always had a reputation about its interpreters, and why Convo is so great has been about its interpreters. I look forward to continuing to work with them as we evolve in the future to ensure that we can continue doing this amazing work that I'm so proud and honored to do with you.
I'm really proud of what we've done here at Convo to this day and how we focused on centering the deaf person around everything that we've done as we seek to revolutionize the industry. It's been a staid model for years, as you said. It's been status quo. They've stated that this is the way things must be done, and that has caused people to be trapped in a system. And so Convo has sought to involved change to pivot. And we've been able to achieve 20 million conversations. Under your leadership, I'm looking forward to the future and what more can be brought to this company. And thank you so much for taking on this role. I'm very excited and proud about what your leadership means for our future.
Well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to working with the team and continuing to create impact moving forward.
100%.